Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this is the federal election edition of Beyond a Ballot, powered by DoorDash. Hello, I'm Hannah Thibodeau. It is Wednesday, April 23rd, and we are in the home stretch, everyone. Party leaders are crisscrossing the country, going to places they think they may make a difference, and they are repeating their messages, hoping to move that needle in the final sprint. Let's start first with you, Amanda Alvaro. Liberal leader Mark Carney was in Victoria amid that final push for votes. What was his key message to lock them in?
So he was in Victoria, now a battleground really in Victoria between the Liberals and the NDP. This is a long-held NDP riding, but I think making that push, he talked about what he calls serious leadership. He talked about the same thing he's really been talking about for the last few weeks, and that's the threat of Trump and how important it is to elect a Liberal government to stand up to Trump and the trade war. These are the ridings across the country that are so tight. This is where I think you'll see those leaders end their last few days, making those final appeals in the ridings that could swing either way. So this was kind of no surprise that he was there, but whether or not it's enough to sway NDP voters, I guess we won't know for a few days.
I want to move to the NDP leader then, because he was also out west. He was in Edmonton, though, and he's kind of going for broke, Kathleen, I would say. He told reporters that people have rejected Poilievre, and he said it was clear he would not win the election, talking about Pierre Poilievre, cautioning voters about giving Mark Carney all the power. Kathleen Monk, talk about this strategy.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? Nobody wants to give anyone a blank check. So why would you give Liberals again a blank check to not be held into account, right? Like they had to be before. Again, it's something that Jagmeet's been very clear about throughout the whole campaign. Pharmacare wouldn't have happened if New Democrats didn't pressure Liberals to do that. Actually, Liberals had promised pharmacare in the past, childcare in the past, things like that, and never delivered on them until New Democrats kind of cornered them. So that's his really play for why we need New Democrats in Parliament. And he had some heavy hitters with him last night in Edmonton. He was out there with Rachel Notley and pulling vote, not only in Heather McPherson's riding in Edmonton, Strathcona, but also Blake Desjardins, and also a candidate that they're hoping to pull through, someone by the name of Tricia Esterbrooks, who's hoping to turn that part of Edmonton also orange. But Jagmeet today was talking again about rent control and how that's so important, talking to renters in the region and saying that with a New Democratic presence in Parliament, a strong presence in Parliament, they would push for something like federal rent control, preventing flipping, rent evictions, that kind of stuff, and corporate landlords buying up all the affordable properties. So that was his push today. And we're in 5 days left and the push is on, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So the push is on in Ontario for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, Rachel Siegel, and he was in Hamilton. He really was reiterating his platform pitch. And today he was talking about, giving police powers to dismantle encampments. That was a big part of his focus. It was law and order, which was front and center for him. Give us a little brief on that, Rachel.
Yeah, so he was talking about shutting down 10 cities and giving police and judges and the criminal justice system, A, more laws, and B, more clarity on some of those laws in order to ensure public safety. As somebody that lives in a city with a lot of very contentious tent cities and a lot of public safety issues around those tent cities, I think this is something that speaks to a lot of different communities across the country. Like you said, Pierre is in Ontario tonight. He's doing a big rally in Trenton, Ontario. And then he's off back to the west tomorrow to Saskatchewan to talk to a lot of supporters in the prairies. So we haven't seen that many stops in the prairies because that typically for the Conservatives is supporter country. But this will be a nice way to come together in the last few days of the campaign with supporters in Saskatoon. And then he's back over to British Columbia this weekend. So we will see him out this way soon.
BC is an interesting race for
I
sure.
know
Mhm.
it's my shout out, so I'm going to hold it
Oh,
till.
okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump ahead there. I'm going to give Kathleen Monk the campaign call out for the day first.
Okay, so my campaign call out is to Preston Manning.
Oh,
Oh,
Preston Manning is back in the news
he is.
today. Again, he voiced earlier in the campaign fears around separation, and that Alberta and some of the prairie provinces may separate should there be a formation of another Liberal government, or basically, actually, what he said, any government that wasn't a Pierre Poilievre government. There's been lots of polling on this subject. I know we haven't kind of dug into polls and how polls are done, but I've been pretty impressed with how the pollsters have been monitoring this particular issue, really tracking it. And to be clear, there's a general consensus among the pollsters that only 25% of those polled in this hypothetical scenario would actually, advocate for some kind of separation. So this would be separation from Canada. And so it's not a huge number. It's certainly not a majority, but there is a pretty a certain portion of the population in Alberta, Saskatchewan, that do have these feelings. But I guess my comment directly back to Preston Manning is this: that you can't only cheer for democracy when your team wins. You
Mhm.
actually have to believe in democracy all the time. And that's
Mhm.
what campaigns are about. We've all worked on campaigns or covered campaigns. I've done both. And they're hard things. And people are bone tired right now. I, in fact, may be one of those people that is bone tired right now. And I'm not even working in a war room. But it is this moment where we fight out our ideas. Our ideas are our spears in politics. We use them and we joust and we test the populace about what ideas they want to believe in, who they want to believe in. And ultimately, we all have to accept the outcome of that process, as long as it's free and fair and people had access to be able to vote and take that right and use that right and exercise that right. And as we talked about yesterday in the pod, over 7.3 million Canadians already have done that. And it is an amazing thing. And so, Mr. Preston Manning, you can't cheer for democracy only when your team wins. And I urge you to tone down the rhetoric around separation, because we are a great, fantastic country that has tons of potential. And it's at this moment that I really think we have to unify. You can unify behind your party. I'm unifying behind mine. I want Jagmeet to win. But that's it. I will accept the result, whatever that is.
Kathleen, I am so glad you mentioned that one. I'm with you. We need to be united right now, and it's more important than ever. Sorry, I just had to jump in there. Amanda Alvaro, your campaign callouts next.
That was such a good one, Kathleen. And I feel like anything I say is going to sound so shallow compared
No,
to
no,
that
no.
excellent campaign call out. I just want to, maybe I should just put a big ditto on the back of that and we can move on.
Mm.
But I'm not. I'm going to go somewhere else. So we all remember during the Trump campaign when he made that baseless claim that illegal immigrants from Haiti were eating domestic pets in this Ohio city. We all remember that one, right?
Oh,
That was
yeah.
horrendous. I'm not suggesting, I'm a little suggesting. I'm not a lot
Oh,
suggesting,
no.
but I am a little suggesting. I have a really there's like some things that really irk me in political rhetoric and what we say in order to get votes, and this kind of behavior is like at the top of my list. And Polyev did a little something like this today, and I didn't like it. He said that crime has gotten so bad in Toronto that the Toronto police are now advising residents to leave their car keys by the door. He's making his whole safe streets thing and he makes this whole hay about it. And it
Leave by
requires
what
the
door?
Toronto
but they are.
are to leave their car keys at the door, like to basically give it away, right? Because it's so bad.
Oh,
And so the Toronto Police Service has to issue a media release. because he claims
Oh,
that where he
no.
got this message from was the Toronto police. So now we are taking time out of Toronto Police Services, who have to issue a media release today that says that the police chief never, in fact, advised residents to leave their car keys by the front door. This stuff really bothers me. I really dislike when politicians try to trump up anger and anxiety in order to gain a vote. This is an example of it. It's not as bad as talking about eating family pets,
Oh
but
my
it's still
God.
bad in my view. Still bad in
I
my view.
didn't.
I'm just
I missed
gonna
the
do an
car key
addendum.
thing.
Can I do an addendum to that shout out? Because
You
here it
may.
is, an article from
You
Global
may.
News dated March 14th, 2024. A Toronto police officer suggested that residents leave their car keys by the door in order to avoid a home invasion. Toronto Police Services issued a statement Wednesday confirming the statement. So just for all of us conspiracy theorists, this did happen, and it is nothing like eating pets, which we should not be
No,
doing.
it didn't happen. What happened was that a police officer said it, but he claimed today that the chief of police put it out as a statement that this was a Toronto Police Services statement to residents. Those are two very different things and required the Toronto police to have to issue yet again a clarifying statement that, in fact, Toronto residents do not need to leave their keys at their door.
Okay.
Fair. Can I do my shout out now? Because one of
Yes.
Yes.
my shout outs is actually to the Toronto Police Association, the largest police association in the country, who have endorsed unequivocally Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives to be the next government in this country. So speaking of those exact police, here they have now endorsed Pierre for PM. But my other shout out goes to
They
Battleground
may have
BC.
regretted that decision after today. I'm just saying.
We'll wait for a statement of clarification
You
on it.
have Amanda feisty today.
Spicy. Spicy.
um,
I
you
don't
know,
like
it's
it.
there's only a few days left of this campaign. When okay,
I know.
Battleground BC. Obviously, first of all, as a Westerner, I will take Kathleen's point to heart, but there's definitely some sentiments out here that are bigger than just Preston Manning, I think. With that said, BC is playing a huge role in these last few days, and you all who listen might have noticed that Jagmeet Singh has been out here a lot. Mark Carney is on the island today. Pierre will be on the island in a couple of days. Why is that? British Columbia is such a fascinating place when it comes to electoral politics in this campaign. I called it weeks ago that this would all come down to a lot of seats in BC. And so I want to give a shout out to all of the British Columbians who are struggling with who to vote for. And they know they're in these big swing ridings like Victoria, where it's neck and neck between the Liberals and the NDP. And I've had so many people reach out to me and say, what do I do? Because BC is such an important part of this conversation. And as we talk about Western alienation, go BC for playing such a big role.
Kathleen, go.
Can I just add a comment on that just to give listeners some context? I actually had to do a speech late last night, way too late because it was BC time. And I was talking about the province and the voting patterns there. And in my research, in 2021, there were 22,000 votes in 24 different ridings. There's only 42 ridings in the province of BC. But in 24 ridings, 22,000 votes made the difference between a liberal or a conservative government. So Rachel's right. Like, it is a really interesting province. And typically BC, as long as I've been in politics, which is way too long, BC always kind of has been like, the government has been decided by the time it gets to BC, Quebec, Ontario, that kind of stuff. And that may still happen this time around, but BC increasingly is playing such a bigger role. And even though the polls close latest there, and sometimes people are like still getting to the polls and we know what the government is, I think it will make a difference this time. I agree with you. Or at least it's very interesting to see how it'll play out regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. So only 5 days to go. I might have already mentioned that. We will be here with all your daily details from the campaign to help you before you head to the polls on Monday, especially, in these tight ridings. You want to get all of your details before you head to cast your ballot. Stay with us. It's not over until it's over.
Thank you for listening. New episodes come out daily, and you can find Beyond a Ballot on Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. A huge thank you to our title sponsor, DoorDash, and sponsors Equal Voice, Page, and Canada Powered by Women for making this election special possible. Speak to you tomorrow.